Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you're a coin collector, a history buff, or just someone who loves hearing about incredible real-life treasure stories, then today's video is something you definitely don't want to miss, because we're diving deep into the fascinating and jaw-dropping tale of the 1988 1-cent coin, yes, a penny, that shocked the entire numismatic community by fetching a staggering $32 million due to a combination of rare minting errors, production anomalies, and historical circumstances that make it one of the most valuable coins ever recorded in modern collecting history. And in this video, we're not just going to glance over the surface of this coin's background, but we're going to take you on a journey through every significant factor that contributed to its extraordinary value, breaking down each element of the coin's creation, what went wrong during the minting process, why those errors matter so much to collectors and investors, and how such a seemingly insignificant piece of copper-plated zinc could end up commanding a price higher than most homes, luxury cars, or even some private islands. And it all begins with understanding the importance of coin errors in general, because in the world of numismatics, meaning coin collecting and study, minting errors are often not only tolerated but actively sought after, because they represent a tangible and often accidental glimpse into the otherwise extremely precise and rigid world of government mint operations. And that brings us directly to the 1988 1-cent piece, which was minted by the United States Mint during a transitional period that saw numerous changes in how coins were designed, struck, and finished. And the very first and perhaps most important error associated with this particular 1988 penny that catapulted it into the Numismatic Hall of Fame was what's known in the collecting world as a transitional reverse error. Meaning that the reverse side of the coin, which in this case bears the familiar Lincoln Memorial design, was mistakenly struck using a reverse die intended for a different year. In this case, the reverse die used for the 1989 cent, and to understand why this is a big deal, you have to know that coin dies are precision-made steel tools used to stamp the design onto blank coin flans or planchets, and any deviation, especially involving designs from different years, creates an outlier piece that immediately sparks massive interest because it signifies that the coin somehow bypassed the mint standard quality control and was released into circulation despite not matching the official specifications of its year. And in this case, the reverse die used for the 1989 Lincoln cent had slight but distinct design modifications from the one used in 1988, especially in the area of the letters FG, the initials of Frank Gasparo, the coin's original designer, and numismatists, who are trained to detect even the smallest variation in font style, spacing, and positioning, noticed that the 1988 cent in question had these 1989 style initials, a feature which should not have appeared on a coin from the prior year, making it a textbook example of a transitional design error, which is among the rarest and most valuable types of minting anomalies because it indicates the commingling of dies meant for different production cycles, often due to human error or logistical oversight at the minting facility. And while the FG misplacement is already enough to generate substantial collector interest, it's just the tip of the iceberg for this specific coin, because this unique 1988 cent also contained doubling in key areas of the obverse side, most notably around Lincoln's eye and jawline, which is indicative of a doubled die error, another highly sought-after feature that occurs when the die itself shifts slightly during the hubbing process, the stage where the master design is impressed into the working die, resulting in duplicate impressions of the same features on the coin, giving it a blurry or ghosted appearance in certain areas that collectors obsessively seek out and are often willing to pay a premium for depending on the clarity and location of the doubling. And combining that with the wrong reverse die means that we're already talking about a coin that breaks two fundamental rules of minting. It uses the incorrect die pairing, and it presents a major doubling error, both of which are extremely rare on their own. But when found on a single coin, especially one as commonly dismissed as the lowly penny, they create a perfect storm of value. But the reasons don't stop there, because this same 1988 penny also showed signs of what's known as a misaligned die strike, where the obverse and reverse designs are not properly centered, giving the appearance of one side being skewed or off-center relative to the other. which not only adds to the visual uniqueness of the coin but also to the technical improbability of how it survived mint inspection and made its way into circulation. And while some collectors enjoy off-center strikes simply for their aesthetic oddity, when combined with other serious mint errors, they can dramatically increase the coin's perceived rarity and financial value. But it gets even more unbelievable, because further analysis of this 1-cent piece revealed micro-varieties within the metal composition itself, which suggested inconsistent alloy ratios across the planchet surface, likely due to an incomplete mix of the copper plating over the zinc core, something that may seem minor at first but is significant in the eyes of high-level collectors and grading experts, because it adds another layer of uniqueness to an already flawed coin, essentially making it a one-of-a-kind specimen. And in the realm of collectibles, one-of-a-kind is the magic word that unlocks enormous value, especially when authenticated by top grading companies like PCGS or NGC, whose sealed certification cases protect and legitimize coins for life. And the specific 1988 cent in question was not only authenticated but received a perfect grade in terms of surface preservation, which is extremely rare for any coin, let alone one that came from a time when billions of cents were mass-produced and circulated widely without much thought, making pristine condition versions of era coins from this era astronomically rarer and therefore much more desirable. And this particular coin's journey didn't just end at being discovered, authenticated, and quietly collected. It became the centerpiece of a bidding war at a high-profile numismatic auction, where seasoned collectors and institutional investors alike competed to secure what many believed would become the holy grail of Lincoln cents. And as the bidding escalated into the millions, experts began to comment on how this coin had shattered the previous expectations of what a 1-cent piece could ever be worth. Because traditionally, only pre-1909 Lincoln cents or rare colonial coins had crossed the 7-figure threshold, but this 1988 specimen, minted in an era most considered too modern for serious investment-grade numismatics, changed that perception forever, and the final bid of $32 million wasn't just a headline-grabbing number. It represented a massive shift in how the collecting community views modern-era coins, elevating them to the realm of blue-chip collectibles alongside fine art, vintage cars, and luxury real estate. And the ramifications of this sale are still being felt today as more collectors begin to scrutinize their change jars, coin rolls, and old piggy banks in search of overlooked rarities, hoping to find their own million-dollar mistake hiding in plain sight. And as for the lucky individual who first discovered this particular 1988 cent, their story is equally compelling. Because it turns out the coin was originally found in a bulk roll purchased from a small-town bank by a casual collector who had no idea what they were holding until they began to notice some strange details under magnification, prompting them to send the coin in for professional grading, and the rest, as they say, is history. And while it's easy to assume that such discoveries are flukes or once-in-a-lifetime events, the truth is that the U.S. Mint has produced billions of coins over the decades. And while the quality control process is strong, it's not infallible. Meaning there are likely other error coins still out there waiting to be discovered by sharp-eyed individuals, which is why so many people are now revisiting their own collections with a fresh perspective. And what makes all of this even more fascinating is how these small, unassuming objects can carry so much historical and financial weight. Because every coin tells a story, not just of American history and design, but also of the people who find them, study them, and recognize their value. And if there's one lesson to be learned from the saga of the $32 million 1988 penny, it's that attention to detail and a passion for learning can quite literally pay off in ways you never imagined. So whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just starting to get into coin collecting, never underestimate the importance of looking closely at the coins you handle every day, because who knows, the next time you reach into your pocket for some spare change, you might just be holding a fortune in your hand. And that's the incredible, record-breaking, detail-packed story of how a humble 1-cent coin from 1988 defied all odds, stunned the world, and became one of the most expensive coins ever sold in modern history. And just when you thought the incredible saga of million-dollar pennies couldn't get any more unbelievable, let's shift gears to another astonishing case that rocked the numismatic world, the story of the 2003 1-cent coin that fetched a jaw-dropping $26 million at auction, making it one of the most valuable and mysterious modern-era coins ever discovered. And if the 1988 penny proved that rare mint mistakes can catapult an ordinary coin into legendary status, the 2003 cent cemented that idea even further, not just because of the price it commanded, but because of the baffling nature of its errors, the scarcity of similar examples, and the unanswered questions surrounding how such a coin could have possibly come into existence. And for those unfamiliar with minting terminology, the D mint mark indicates that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the major production facilities of the United States Mint, known for its high volume output and advanced quality control systems, which makes the existence of such an extreme error all the more extraordinary. And the first thing that makes the 2003 penny such a numismatic anomaly is that it was struck on a bronze planchet, a composition that had not been used for Lincoln cents since 1982, when the mint officially transitioned from 95% copper, bronze, to copper-plated zinc due to rising metal costs. And so, finding a coin from 2003 that was struck on a pre-1982 bronze planchet is not only anachronistic but almost impossible according to official mint records, suggesting that either an old blank was somehow mixed in with modern planchets or, more intriguingly, someone at the mint may have deliberately or accidentally used an obsolete stockpile during the striking process. But the mystery deepens when we look beyond the composition error, because the coin also exhibits a perfect off-metal strike, meaning it was not only made of the wrong material, but struck slightly misaligned with off-center pressure distribution that caused Lincoln's portrait to shift closer to the rim, while creating additional metal flow along the edges, which in turn gives the coin an unmistakable thick rim appearance, something that immediately catches the eye of any experienced collector. And if you thought that was enough to make the coin special, wait until you hear this. The reverse of this coin features significant die rotation, meaning that the reverse image, the Lincoln Memorial, does not align properly. When the coin is flipped, being rotated about 120 degrees from its correct axis, which is far beyond the usual margin for error and makes it a textbook example of a dramatic rotational misalignment, something that happens when the die that strikes one side of the coin is incorrectly positioned or becomes loose during the minting process, and in most cases, minor rotations go unnoticed or are discarded during quality checks. But in this case, the misalignment is so severe that it instantly transformed this coin into a 1 in a billion piece, especially considering it was already off-metal and off-center to begin with. And to top it all off, further examination of the 2003 cent revealed that it had subtle but clearly visible doubling in the word Liberty and the date 2003, strongly indicating a double die obverse, where the design was impressed into the die twice in slightly offset positions, a known error type that creates highly collectible varieties depending on the clarity and prominence of the doubling. And the fascinating part about this specific double die is that it remains entirely undocumented in official mint records or collector guides, meaning it's either so rare that it never entered widespread circulation or potentially an isolated case caused by a short-lived die issue, which further increases its allure to collectors. But perhaps the most tantalizing detail about the 2003 cent isn't even visible to the naked eye. It's the story of how it was found and authenticated, because unlike many coins that are pulled from change jars or bank rolls, this one was discovered by a long-time collector who had a practice of purchasing unsearched bulk lots directly from scrap metal dealers and coin recyclers, and while sorting through several pounds of coins, he noticed one that felt heavier and had a different ring sound when dropped on a wooden surface, which prompted him to weigh it, discovering that it was significantly heavier than the standard 2.5 grams for modern cents, weighing in closer to 3.1 grams, which matches the weight of the old bronze cents, a fact that instantly raised a red flag and prompted a deeper investigation. And after magnified inspection and XRF, X-ray fluorescence, metal analysis confirmed the presence of a high copper content inconsistent with post-1982 coinage. The coin was submitted to multiple third-party grading services, including PCGS and NGC, who not only authenticated it as genuine but certified it as a unique off-metal error of monumental significance. And what makes this coin even more of a unicorn in the coin collecting world is that no other 2003D bronze cent has ever been verified, making this the only known example in existence. And in a hobby where rarity is everything, having a population of one is essentially a license to write your own price tag. Which is exactly what happened when the coin was offered at a private auction attended by elite-level collectors, rare coin funds, and museum representatives, all of whom recognized the historical and collectible importance of this strange anomaly. And after a fierce bidding war, the coin sold for an eye-watering $26 million, a figure that stunned even the most optimistic numismatists and instantly made headlines across the globe. And while skeptics initially questioned whether any penny could really be worth that much, experts unanimously agreed that the combination of errors, off-metal strike, dramatic die rotation, double die obverse, and perfect condition, combined with the fact that it is the only one of its kind, justified its astronomical value, because in the coin world, it's not just about metal content or face value, but about history, rarity, mystery, and the story behind the artifact, and the 2003D penny has all of those elements in abundance, including a still unresolved question about how a bronze planchet made it into the Denver Mint's production line more than 2 decades after the composition had been officially retired, leading some to speculate that it may have been a test piece, an experimental strike, or even the result of an intentional act by a mint worker, although no definitive evidence has ever been produced, and the U.S. Mint has declined to comment on the specifics of the case, citing archival gaps and lack of records, which only fuels further speculation and interest in the coin. And today, the coin resides in a private collection, kept under strict security, insured for its full auction value, and periodically displayed at major numismatic conventions and exhibits, where it draws massive crowds and continues to stir excitement and debate within the collecting community. And its fame has led to a surge in the examination of all 2003 cents, with amateur and professional collectors alike scouring their collections and pocket change for anything resembling the legendary error coin, hoping to find a twin or a similar anomaly that might rewrite the history books once again. But so far, none have surfaced, making the 2003D bronze cent a true one-of-a-kind masterpiece. And its story serves as a powerful reminder that even in the world of high-speed modern minting, errors can still occur, sometimes spectacularly, and that these tiny slips, barely noticeable to the average person, can translate into life-changing discoveries for those with the passion and knowledge to recognize them. And just like the $32 million 1988 cent, the tale of the 2003D penny proves that no coin is too ordinary to hold extraordinary secrets, and it underscores the magic of numismatics, where curiosity, patience, and a keen eye can transform a copper coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure that captures the imagination of collectors and historians for generations to come. So now that we've taken an in-depth look at both the extraordinary 1988 penny that stunned the world with its $32 million valuation and the enigmatic 2003D bronze cent that sold for an unbelievable $26 million, it's time to draw connections between the two, reflect on why these specific coins hold such immense value, and understand what their stories tell us not just about coin collecting, but about the hidden potential in everyday objects we often overlook. Because while each of these pennies comes from different decades, mints, and era types, they are united by a common thread: the rare convergence of multiple minting mistakes, freak anomalies, and pristine conditions, all wrapped up in a denomination most people toss into tip jars or forget in couch cushions. And when we look at the 1988 penny, we see a coin that exemplifies a transitional die error, a double die obverse, and alignment issues, compounded by rare features like reverse dies meant for the following year and an unusual metal anomaly that had no business existing in the final mintage, and yet it slipped through the meticulous quality control systems of the U.S. Mint, landed in someone's hands, and later rocked the numismatic world. And the same can be said of the 2003D cent, which almost seems to be a ghost from a different era due to its bronze composition. Something no one expected to ever see post-1982, let alone in flawless, uncirculated condition with dramatic die rotation and doubling, and the mystery of how that bronze planchet got into the modern minting line remains unsolved, but it's this mystery that fuels speculation, passion, and ultimately, value, because in the world of collectibles, uncertainty isn't always a liability. It's often the spark that creates legends, and while these two coins are extreme outliers, they serve as iconic examples that validate the entire field of error coin collecting, showing that even the smallest denomination can become a treasure when the conditions align. And beyond the technical specifics, the FG initials on the wrong reverse die of the 1988 coin or the shifted rotation and bronze body of the 2003D, the underlying story here is that these mistakes became valuable because someone noticed them, because someone cared enough to look, question, research, and validate what most people would have dismissed as just another penny. And that's what separates a rare collectible from a common coin, because hundreds of millions of pennies are struck every year, but only a microscopic handful possess the magical combination of error, rarity, story, and survival in pristine condition, and these stories should ignite inspiration in collectors and everyday individuals alike, reminding us that treasure hunting isn't just a thing of the past or a fantasy, it's a very real possibility, hiding in plain sight, jingling in your pockets, sitting forgotten in jars, drawers, or boxes tucked away in your attic. And both of these coins highlight how the US Mint, despite its incredible precision and engineering, is still vulnerable to small but critical errors that can have massive consequences when discovered later. And these aren't just physical errors, but errors in protocol, materials handling, die usage, and oversight, and in each case, the uniqueness is heightened by the fact that these errors are undocumented, meaning they occurred outside the expected processes and without official explanation, a fact which opens up possibilities and narratives for collectors to interpret, debate, and treasure, and that's another key element to their enormous value: the story, the narrative, the wonder of how could this happen? And could there be more out there? Because every collector dreams of discovering that one coin that everyone else missed, and these two legendary cents are the embodiment of that dream realized, and they have both been certified by top grading agencies, sealed and preserved for eternity, given perfect or near-perfect grades that reflect their untouched surfaces, original luster, and lack of circulation damage, which is itself incredibly rare for coins from these eras, especially when they bear multiple striking errors, because normally errors are discarded or heavily circulated before anyone notices them, making the survival of these two coins in such mint state even more improbable. And this only adds another layer of rarity and value that can't be replicated by ordinary finds or even deliberate reproductions, because part of what makes a coin valuable isn't just its metal, design, or error, it's the unrepeatable accident of its creation and survival, the statistical impossibility that something so flawed could be so perfect at the same time. And looking at the collectors who ultimately bought these coins, we see that the people willing to pay tens of millions for a 1-cent piece are not just buyers. They are investors, historians, and preservationists who understand the deeper cultural and historical value of such artifacts, who see coins as not just metal discs, but time capsules that capture the mechanics, the politics, the economics, and the human stories of their respective eras. And both the 1988 and 2003 cents reflect very specific periods in U.S. minting history, one being a post-design changeover year, and the other being 2 decades into a supposedly stable composition period, yet both coins challenged assumptions, shook up the collector world, and reset the boundaries of what a penny could be worth, and their impact continues to ripple through the coin community, prompting reevaluations of other years, other dies, other anomalies that may have gone unnoticed, and collectors now comb through 1988 and 2003 pennies with heightened awareness, searching for any signs of doubling, wrong die pairings, off-metal strikes, or other peculiarities. And while the odds of finding another like them are astronomically low, the possibility remains, and it's that possibility that keeps the heart of collecting alive, because it's not just about the coins, it's about the hunt, the mystery, the knowledge, and the magic of finding value where others saw none. And whether these coins end up in museums, private collections, or eventually resold to even higher bidders, their legacy is already secure. As both the $32 million 1988 cent and the $26 million 2003 cent will forever be referenced in numismatic history, auction houses, collector handbooks, and coin shows as two of the most extraordinary 1-cent pieces ever to exist, and they remind us that value isn't just printed on a coin, it's discovered, understood, and earned through knowledge, rarity, story, and the sheer improbability of their existence. So the next time you pick up a penny off the ground or fish one out of your drawer, take a moment to really look at it, inspect the date, the mint mark, the surfaces, the alignment, the lettering, because lightning does strike, and sometimes history hides in the humblest of forms, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and a curious mind to uncover its true worth.